You won't believe what has just made its way into the 90-Day Fiancé world. Because the queen of shade herself, Veronica Rodriguez, as in the one person we all believed had it all together, just has her mugshot come out and the internet is losing ... Although here's the punchline to this story. It looks like the one person who's just going to walk away with a broken heart has also just been walking around with some battle scars. Because the question currently ripping communities and threads to shreds is this: was Veronica the true abuser in the relationship? But anyway, let's think about this. Back when we first started following the show, we all shipped Veronica and Seth. Veronica was snappy-tongued yet kind of charming, controlling a bit, maybe, but in that ha-ha, I'm so sassy kind of way. Then there was Seth, her calm in the midst of a storm. He was quiet, patient, the complete antithesis of Tim Good Times there ahead. But then there's this arrest that shreds every bit of what we've learned so far. What happened? According to a source who DM'd a popular 90-Day T account, Seth has been emotionally pushing away for weeks before Veronique's arrest. He wasn't filming for the show. He'd shut down his Instagram page. Then, WHAM. The arrest photo of Veronica surfaces late last night, messy and matted, with no makeup and a hollow, shocked expression that screams one thing and nothing at the same time. Everyone was shocked and surprised about the news. But it was what happened after the photo leaked that turned everything upside down. There is allegedly a police report that has come out this morning, and if it's true, we're talking serious allegations. Apparently, Seth was the one who called the police during an angry exchange between them, saying it got physical and volatile. From what is stated in the police report, there is talk of scratches, bruising, intimidation by threats, but let's not go to off the rails, shall we? After all, it's still very early on, but again, receipt is receipt, and the damage done to his arm is, well, it's not good. But what gets even crazier is that Veronique's side of the whole relationship is utterly different. According to an alleged close friend of Veronique's who spoke to this rumor blog only, Veronica says that it's actually she who's been groomed the victim of manipulation by none other than Seth. Veronica says that he's been bombing her and then ghosting her, all in an attempt to control the way that her experiences shape the relationship. If so, then what's the explanation for that mugshot? And then, naturally, the question on everyone's mind is whether this is the toxic explosion, or has Veronica always been playing the long game? We should not forget that Veronica is nobody's fool and understands how to handle herself on a storyline. It's not enough that she is an active member of the 90-Day family, but she's also embedded herself at 90-Day events such as Pillow Talk, tell-alls, and spin-offs. Listen, I've been a part of a lot of craziness in this franchise, but this one, this one stings because of Veronica, you know. She was supposed to be our relatable single mom, or our sassy sidekick that turns out to lead us to our happy ending. And instead, we find her mugshot staring back at us, wondering what we really knew about her. And hey, if you're still on board with thinking that this is all a publicity stunt or some kind of misunderstanding, well, you can just wait until we hit on what Seth's sister posted on her story back then. It's been taken down now, but screenshots are out there, and what Veronica ended up telling Seth during their last blowout. Chilling. This is unfolding much quicker than anyone thought it would, and I assure you, folks, we are barely getting started. If you're as baffled as I am, you can go ahead and lay out your theories in the comments, because clearly we should have seen some sort of signs lurking in the background and pretended not to notice them. Okay, so let's get back into it, because just when it couldn't get any darker, Seth's sister blows up the fandom with a bombshell revelation that leaves them absolutely spiraling. The infamous Instagram story, here's what it said: "If you leave me, I'll make sure you regret it publicly," she told him, and she wasn't lying. Y'all, what is that supposed to be a silent threat? It's even more chilling that there are several fans going back to clips of *Pillow Talk*. And even some behind-the-scenes stuff where Veronika's been showing signs of her exercising control in the relationship, disrespectful of Seth's opinions, dismissing him with a snarky attitude, her eyes rolling in exasperation as he was talking. It could just be a matter of them just having a chipper relationship like that. Or it could be the tip of a toxic iceberg that just got missed out now. Let's speak about Seth. He's been the only person in this whole mess who hasn't put up a single post, not a statement. Not an Instagram story post, not an I respect your privacy blurb. His silence is slowly saying something louder than any of Veronika's cryptic quotes are saying. But here's where things took a turn. Because I received an anonymous tip that literally blew my mind. A DM from a user who claims they know a thing or two about production and apparently witnessed several incidents between Veronika and Seth while they were working for a recent 90-day spinoff. One of these incidents, Veronika just snapped in a production delay and yelled at Seth in front of TPA letters before walking away from set, according to this unknown insider. It was the first time we've seen her lose control. He just sat there, frozen. So the question is, has Veronika been emotionally manipulating Seth all along? It's not the fireworks in the air drama that we're used to watching. No, this is the slow burn type. The type that just continues to chip away until you're nothing. The type of poisonous manipulation that you wouldn't even recognize, and the protest is taking its toll. There were cries to support her in the early days, free Veronika. There's obviously been some kind of mistake. She would never do something like this. But now, well, now there are those who claim they are, dare they say it, duped. That perhaps she's been projecting this quirky, snarky, I'm simply a strong single mother facade while harboring all these much darker impulses off camera. And then there's the Tim situation, which is also well past its expiration date, which is where she kept inserting herself into his romantic life, where she kept being possessive, even if she was just best friends, which people assumed was either an unresolved crush or simply codependency. But what if it was simply another story in her pattern of controlling others? It's not just the arrest anymore. It's what the arrest has uncovered. A whole network of emotional landmines we were ignoring because of how easily we could identify with the packaging. Being a fan of Veronika Mars means watching this franchise character implode before our very eyes. Because Veronika has been noticeably quiet except for this thank you for all those who reached out message on social media. And see if you are still with me while you are also thinking there is no way she could have done that. I understand. It is how these kinds of tales catch us off guard. Just because toxic relationships are not immediately apparent doesn't mean they are not happening. They are shrouded with charisma. They are masked with guilt. All right. You guys thought the mugshot picture was the high point. You guys thought the twist was when Seth's sister warned him. Buckle up. Because the real craziness is about to begin. Around this time, a voice message has come to light. The message is anonymous and was sent to a tiny T account with less than 2,000 followers before being close to being pushed under the rug. But then fans broke down this audio. Game-changer. The vocal identity is clearly Veronika. You can sense the anger in her voice, the snark downplayed in favor of full-blast rage. And then, of course, there's the context. Veronika is most definitely not speaking to Seth, but about him loudly, passionately, with more than enough bite. The impromptu voice message is only 47 seconds long, but in this time, Veronika gets out. He thinks he can just walk away without paying for what he did to me emotionally. I built his platform. Okay, so he wants to walk away. Then he better know that I can shut it down too. You guys, that's not frustration. That's not heartbreak. That's threat language. That's the kind of language that makes you question everything. The captions on Instagram, the pillow talk jabs. The body language we've all dismissed as a strong personality, but a weak man. And then, bam. The receipts begin rolling in, screenshots, deleted comments from fan accounts that showed Veronika had allegedly been messaging creators not to share unflattering edits of herself and Seth's fights. Please don't give the trolls ammunition. You know how easily they twist things. What if that wasn't twisting? Maybe this was the truth that had been filtered all along. But here's the part that really gets interesting. You recall that so-called police report from part 1? Well, a closer analysis reveals it's more than a simple explosion of physical altercation. Notice it includes a trend of escalating verbal aggression, property destruction, and, yes, emotional intimidation, according to sources. Seth has told police that he'd been walking on eggshells for months, and his friends are beginning to come out from the woodwork with dubious quotes and stories in response to yesterday's quotes, and stories such as karma doesn't need help and truth always comes out. Everything is falling apart rapidly. You know what the hardest part was? Those reunion videos. Watch them again. How Veronica would talk down to Seth, laugh at him rather than with him, the strained smiles, the uneasy looks. Maybe we'd be watching the beginning of the end right before our very eyes. What about that part? That one stings. Seth's cousin put a series of pictures of them and Seth hiking, captioning them peace after chaos. That's more than a vibe. That's a statement. And in the context of the message whispers that the production of the next Veronica show has been shelved, delayed, nope, shelved. There is something coming. And I have the feeling that it isn't just some PR damage control. Okay, we've revealed the mugshot, broken down the leaked voice recording, searched the Tinder posts, but this right here, this blows every piece of the Veronica Seth storyline to smithereens. And it comes from someone who would never come forward with information like this exactly. Because it does come from someone with background experience in production on 90 Day Fiancé. Let me try to describe the scene. This crew member, or who we'll refer to as Jay, has been working on this set for the final month of Veronitz's and Seth's scenes being shot for this program. And as Jay goes on to describe to us what happened on this show through their group chat screenshots with other members of their crew, it's been a manufactured illusion to keep Veronitz's public image intact that was happening before our eyes. Read that again. My own show, which is exactly when everything comes into focus. Because Veronica wasn't just playing a role, she was stage managing it. And then there's the introverted and reserved Seth, who is not just awkward, but is actually being heavily pruned in edit for a lack of tone. Which is code for we have been given a clean version of a rather messy truth, but it gets even more complicated, as it turns out, in the very same conversation. Jay goes nuclear with a bombshell reveal. Veronica was still texting Tim. But this time it was about Seth, not, hey, what's up? Let's grab lunch sometime. Messages, more like let me tell you all about how our argument is going with so-and-so, with so much anger and so much sarcasm. There's an alleged text message where Veronica says, I swear he's emotionally stunted. Maybe you were right. This is another project, not a partner. A project, not a partner. Let that sink in. Veronica allegedly spoke of Seth, the man she was allegedly building a life with, as a project. That she shared her thoughts about him with her ex, not a friend, not a confidant, but Tim. Of all people, the man she publicly touted as nothing more than a platonic BFF for a long string of years. If ever you wondered why Seth didn't seem at all at ease in any of the scenes he shared with Veronica, why he flinched at certain jokes or seemed to shrink in her wake, it all makes sense now. And now, here comes where the timeline goes completely bonkers, according to the production source. Seth was hesitant to put their relationship out there at the same time as Veronica. Seth asked for a hold off on their reveal. However, Veronica was worried that she'd be phased out of relevance. So she forced the issue anyway, using her pillow talk influence to push the agenda. And when Seth resisted, the fight started, not all at once, little by little, but that's not the extent of the betrayal. Because in a shocking final piece of information from the same production source, We have learned of a scene that was removed entirely from the airing of the show The Fight. That took place in Miami that had Veronica break Seth's phone in a dispute. The cameras were rolling. The producers were there, but it was pulled. Why? First, because, quote, it would have made her look unstable, and at the time, she was still under negotiation for additional projects. Well, you all can bet that the cast members won't fall for that. Game of Thrones isn't some fairy tale. There are real-world implications in this show. Now, you know why Veronica is going to be in complete control of the new season. Now, I am going to get this straight. There is violence caused by the cast member in the teaser for the new season. There is damage to personal property, and the whole scene is cut down for the cast member. The whole scene is cut down for the cast member because honestly, it's infuriating. Because while she was being protected, promoted, and uplifted, Seth was being erased from the narrative, from the storyline, from his own life. Replaced as a side character to the independent woman narrative of Veronica. But when he tried to draw a line, she went off. Trust me, this is how a lot of us find ourselves in a toxic relationship. When charm becomes a disguise. When manipulation is concealed behind a veil of I'm just an opinionated person. When setting a boundary is considered sensitive. When he with the most influence gets the story. If this has you yelling at your screen, let me tell you, you're not alone. This isn't just about drama, it's about power. It's about control. And the ultimate reality of what happens when production companies value personalities over people. All right, I think you better be sitting down for this one because what I'm going to share with you is not rumor and it's not a theory either. It's a leaked message issued by Veronica herself and was never intended to end up in the public domain in the first place. But lo and behold, it's out now and it's going to change everything. Here's how it came out, apparently. It was a friend of a friend type of situation where they know Seth and Veronica through a mutual friend, and they say through a mid-level 90-day gossip post that they saw a rough version of a letter that Veronica shared through Google Docs. Yes, shared. It was apparently for a business venture they were doing before everything went south. And hidden amongst that shared doc, a rough letter that Veronica wrote a few days before her arrest. And I am not kidding you, that's like a confession statement. And a PR statement all in one draft. I never meant for things to escalate the way that they did. Writes this individual. I've been under pressure. He kept threatening to leave and I panicked. I just wanted control of the situation again. I didn't want to hurt him. I just needed him to stay. Let that sink in. I didn't want to hurt him. I just needed him to stay. That is not an entry you make if nothing happens. That is not an entry you make if you are wrongly accused. That's the kind of entry you make when the truth is hanging in the balance between revelation and burial. But now, here we are in a totally new domain. Because what is going on here is no longer chaos. This is where manipulation becomes a factor. This becomes what fear is all about. This becomes a confession that happens secretly. That they knew they were trying to hold on to a relationship where they knew they were falling apart. However, it goes even deeper than this. In the same folder, there are also other documents according to the source, like draft notes, captions for posts that never happened on social media, and an outline for a podcast pitch Veronica was working on after 90 Day. One of the categories, redemption arc. The bullet points below that, handle breakup, reclaim narrative, emphasize motherhood, suggest mental health journey. I am not spinning a tale here. She had a whole plan in place for turning public perception around, and fans are reeling because this feels intentional. This feels like a person who knew the fall was looming but was already planning the rise. But wait, there's more. It can get even messier. But just hours later, a new piece of the puzzle was leaked by a verified insider. And it appears that Veronica tried to reach producers to film a clarifying sit-down interview. But not with Seth and not with a host, just her, alone, because, allegedly, She asked for a controlled environment where she could speak directly to her fans, uninterrupted. But here's the catch: producers said no to it because sources say they are taking a pause on all things Veronica until the legal issues are sorted out. And that, my friends, is code for she's radioactive at this time. The world she once controlled, slipping away. The reputation she has established, crumbling. And the one person she has attempted to silence, Seth, is now winning the courtroom of public opinion without even opening his mouth. That is how persuasive truth can be. Also, let's not forget, Seth has yet to share a single word. There has been no clapback, no defense against the accusations leveled against him. But in a gesture almost symbolic in its significance, he was seen this week with his friends and a smile playing on his face and in his heart, and in a setting where there are no cast members anywhere in sight nor any media. Compare this with Veronica, who has not appeared publicly since her mugshot came out. Her social media accounts are on hold, her direct messages are disabled, and her BFFs silence on all levels. Those women who use picture posts from brunches with her and called themselves boss babes are not rallying behind her at all, and it is precisely that, more than anything else, which speaks volumes. Now here's where we end this part, and this one's hard to process, okay? And this is because if this draft is true, if Veronica did indeed write those words, if that podcast outline was true, that means this was not just a single incident. This was not just some heated moment. It was part of something bigger where image came first, control second, and consequences third. The real question would be, how long has this actually been happening? It seemed as though everything was out. In the open, the mugshot, the voice memo, and even a draft of a letter that had never been sent. But then another leak appeared on the internet, and this one, it turns everything on its head. There was a private text conversation that was apparently between Seth and a mysterious woman. That was leaked just a few hours ago. No one believed it at first. But the timestamps fit, the language rings true. And what Seth says in this conversation, that's enough to call everything we know into question. I'm staying quiet for now, let her bury herself. When it's over, I'll show them what really happened. Seth writes in what appears to be a conversation. Let that sink in all this time. We've known him as the quiet one, emotionally wounded, shy to a degree, the man who left the relationship with bruises noticeable to all and uttered not a word. But this text, it's not silent at all. It's calculated, like he's allowing the judgment of the court of public opinion to have their moment before he goes through with an enough is enough moment of handing out the play-by-play. And with that, Veronika's words draft, the one that speaks of panic, of being left behind, not to mention feeling out of control, it no longer smacks of a confession. It reeks of desperation, and maybe not for reasons we think. And then, from out of nowhere, a second bombshell. A blurry mugshot pops up on the internet, same night, same incident, but this time not Veronica. A man this time, and others are speculating it might be Seth, not yet confirmed, being as it were. This pic is going viral fast, and fans are researching like crazy if this pic is true. That means there was a lot left out of what went down before. A mutual arrest? Both of them were picked up this night? And if that were the case, then why was only Veronika's pic released? Now, we're in completely uncharted territory. Kelly's production has gone quiet. TLC has removed all programming with Veronika's name on it from their upcoming programming lists. Even Seth's name is falling off, and as for the rumors, they're growing louder. One source says lawyers are already at work on both sides. Another asserts contracts are being examined, with non-disclosure agreements issued this week. Which means all of what we're seeing now, the leaking, the texts, the docs, may only be the tip of the iceberg. And that's the twist that no one expected. There's chatter now of an interview, an actual in-person interview, not on YouTube, not on Instagram Live, an actual full-scale production streaming series. documented and filmed and presented to the networks and allegedly in that recorded material. There's actual video of that night, audio of that night, witnesses from that night. Perhaps even what led to the arrest. If that's true, we have hardly scratched the surface. The voice message, the texts that were deleted, the police report that's just scattered evidence. The story, the raw, uncensored, irrefutable truth, that's still hidden behind contracts, attorneys, and NDA letters. But if this documentary ever sees the light of day, it will be far more than a 90-day fiancé controversy. It will be the career-ending expose. And so we are left with the ugliest question of all, Veronica. Is the abuser, is Seth the victim, or are we watching to people who are systematically destroying each other? One drip at a time, because as of right now, no one looks innocent. As Jamie Foxx said in But This Isn't a Split Up, not even reality TV turned ugly, it's a meltdown. A complete breakdown of not to people, but to public faces, caught on camera, in a courtroom, and in messages. And the worst part, we don't even know yet how deep this goes, he added.